they went all in with the Sauce Gardner trade, right? All in. Give you a couple of number one picks here. Then Daniel Jones breaks the leg, and then he tears the Achilles. All right, you're signing Phillip Rivers. Are you kidding me? I mean, by the way, you know what hasn't been talked about enough? Sam Ellinger decided he didn't want to come play for the Colts. Why? You would have been. I know Denver activated him to the roster anyway, but he would have been maybe a starting quarterback this weekend.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Look, the trend continues to go to Blake Corum. He's still available. I can't believe he's still available. So if you have Kyron Williams, you got to have Blake Corum on your roster. And if you don't have Kyron Williams, I think you still want Blake Corum on your roster. You got to have these insurance policies on your roster at the very least. Even in a shallow league, if Blake Corum's floating out there, don't let him float out there. The last thing you want to have happen is for him to end up on some other team and then taking you the next couple weeks to win a championship.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm just saying, if I were a good NFL head coach, if I were a hot offensive coordinator, and that coaching cycle's going to come around, and they're like, hey, do you want the Giants job? Or do you want the Michigan job? I think the Michigan job is much better.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
You ain't buying no tickets.
Who isn't?
You're not going to
I'm
these
a
games.
fan. Of course I'm not. There's a fan. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but if you were a fan, I thought you were a fan of the Hurricanes. You're not anymore.
They told me.
They smashed
I told them
you.
to donate my tickets.
Yeah, so I get it. But the fans travel. They have money, believe it or not. It's
They
amazing.
don't.
Somebody's
in this
got
economy,
money.
in this economy,
But they have money. I don't know. See what Kelsey says about the economy.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Happy Monday, everybody. Good morning, everybody watching live on SportsGrid. Good afternoon, everybody on the YouTube and the podcast, and welcome to the Craig Carton Show. Craig is on vacation with his family this week, so me, Tyrone Johnson, will be taking you in through today and the whole week. Happy holidays to everybody. But we have a lot to get to on this Monday, so we can't waste a lot of time with all these particulars. Because I have a problem, people. I have a problem, and I think you have a problem too, but you might not yet realize that you have a problem, and it's related to the NFL. It's related to the NFL. Now, Craig rightfully has celebrated, along with many of you, as a matter of fact, maybe everybody outside of Kansas City, talking about the Chiefs' demise. But there's one problem that I now have when I'm watching NFL football week after week. I'm watching Saturday. I'm watching Sunday. They spread these games out. So now when there's less games total, you get even more time, even if you're a red zone viewer, to take your time and watch more and more of these football games, if that's what you want to call it, in the NFL. And my problem is there's no dominant team, and it's been an extremely boring NFL season, if we're being honest, and I have a problem with it. You had the Chiefs out. You had the Cowboys out. Remember all that talk about Joe Burrow? Out. All these things, when you look at the NFL, let me look at them. Already in the Cancun. Goff last night, you can see it right there on the screen. He's now joining them at 1-2-3 Cancun. Dak and all these guys are out there. The Ravens, Henry gets them the lead, and then they don't give him the ball again, and they lose to the Patriots. And it makes me ask a question. You have so many marquee teams out and so many marquee players out. Who's good? And I know the way the NFL sets it up. They set up this communist regime under the guise of, we want competitive balance. And many years, that's mostly true. But that's not true this year. What you're getting is, at best, if I'm being generous, we're getting mediocrity. We're not getting competitiveness. We're getting bad football. These are not elite teams, and I don't have anybody to root against. Everybody obviously has their team. Eagles fans are rooting for the Eagles. Cowboys fans, they're rooting for the Cowboys. Steelers fans, I get that part. But you also always have that team that you root against. And who's that team this year? It was the Chiefs, but now they're out before Christmas. So who is it? And they're dropping quarterbacks. It's not fun. So let's start looking at it. If you don't believe me, if you think my theory's flawed, or no, this has been a great season. Let's start off by looking at the playoff picture on the AFC side. And we'll talk about which team do you think out there is actually really good that you can root against. Now you see the Broncos up there. I thought they might be good, even though they have been winning really close games by the skin of their teeth over and over again. Maybe they're really good. Maybe they're really good. And then the Jaguars beat the hell out of them. And I don't trust the Jaguars. Look at the Patriots. Yeah, good win last night against the Ravens. Of course, Lamar Jackson's out the whole second half, so that plays a role in it. And also, Harbaugh might be time for him to wrap up in Baltimore. But he botches the end of the game. They win that game. Just think about it. If you're a team of anybody, a fan of anybody in the AFC, are you really afraid to play the Patriots? No, be honest. You're not. You're not. The Chiefs struck fear when they were good. The Eagles in the NFC side last year, it struck fear and like, I don't want to play them. I want to avoid them. Don't tell me you're, after watching what the Jags did last night, you're overly worried about the Broncos, and do not tell me you're worried about the Patriots. You're not. Again, Jags brand new. We'll talk more about that Cohen fella later on. He's a little, we'll talk about him. You know, he got to calm down a little bit. The Steelers, I give credit. All right. I want to give credit to the Steelers for a moment because Mike Tomlin keeps on doing it. And I want to give him credit for that. And last night, they get the victory. Yesterday, the offensive pass interference late against the Lions. The Lions likely now out of the playoffs. Their only path will get to the NFC in just a little while. But tell me, do you fear the Steelers? If you're a fan of any other team in the AFC, do you look at the Steelers and say, oh, no, I don't want to play them? Of course not. It's not elite football. You can look at the Chargers. I think they've won like 7 out of 8 games, but I've seen them up close. Nice defense. Herbert is playing well, and maybe they're a team to worry about, but not really. And we'll get to the Bills in a moment. And the Texans, I give them credit, but their offense isn't elite. Their defense is really good. So that's on the AFC side. Now let's flip over to the NFC side. Again, what I'm talking about this year is that it's boring because nobody's great. The Seahawks are the number 1 seed. They've earned it. And, hey, going to Seattle might be really tough. But be honest, if you're going on the road, are you worried about Sam Darnold? You're not. There's no evil empire. There's nobody to hate. The Bears, Caleb Williams, yeah, it all looks cute. But you saw that game. If Love doesn't get the concussion, they don't come back and win that game in overtime. And you believe, if you're a fan of an NFC team, you can beat that team. The Eagles, they have the best pedigree of anybody left, but I'm an Eagles fan, a diehard Eagles fan. I don't know how good they actually are. I want to believe that they're a great, great, great squad. And maybe they'll have a chance to still prove that, but I'm not. You can't fear them. And now you got the damn Carolina Panthers in the playoffs. And don't tell me you fear them. And the Rams, I was talking about this with Ethan, the producer, before the show. I want to believe in the Rams. Oh, yeah, they're a really good team. I want to believe in the Rams. They're not that good. At the end of the day, they don't appear to be that good, and they're not fearsome 49ers. And now it looks like it's going to be the Packers. The only way that the Lions can make the playoffs now, just to clear up the playoff picture, is for the Packers to lose out and the Lions to win out. That's really just one spot left. And then, of course, someone has to win the South. And now the Carolina Panthers of all teams, you can make an argument he's coach of the year down there, but you don't fear him. Nobody's good. It makes it boring. It makes it boring. And this is why you don't want to live under a communist regime. And that's what the NFL is. Nobody's allowed to just flourish. Oh, we got the salary cap. Wait, you're paying players that are good? That means you got to get rid of other players that are good. Oh, your draft pick, you have to draft at the end. They do all of this to create something, and this year what they've created was a bunch of mess. But there is hope, everybody. There is hope. I didn't mention the Buffalo Bills for a reason. All of a sudden, there's a Superman Clark Kent thing. If you don't believe me, oh yeah, how about the fellas, bring it up. Bring up my guy McDermott up there, former Eagles assistant, longtime Bills coach. Now, you see this. If you look to the left of your screen, you'll see him with the glasses. You see him now without the glasses. Since he took his glasses off and became super coach again, they're now 8-1 since that's happened. 8-1. Maybe Buffalo is the team to believe in. Maybe. Maybe they're the team to believe in, all right? Maybe they're the team to believe in, but here's the problem. They play the Eagles at home this week. If they don't beat the Eagles, then they also aren't a team to believe in. So while we celebrated the Chiefs going down, I got to ask you, I got to say it, I think we made a mistake. We want a team to hate. And we saw it bubbling around Thanksgiving when they lost to the Cowboys, when I'm referring to the Chiefs. But when you're looking at it, overall, We're in a real jam right now. We don't have anybody to hate. And on the one hand, that gives everybody this hope. Oh, yeah, we can win, we can win, we can win. But, yeah, like, at the end of the day, it's more special when you beat somebody real. It is. It's more special. When the Eagles beat the Chiefs, as an Eagles fan, I will tell you, you take any Super Bowl. But the last 2 Super Bowls for the Eagles, they beat the Patriots and they beat the Chiefs. It was added because you're beating Tom Brady. You're beating Mahomes. It adds something to it. It makes it better. But when you're just out there, you get a Super Bowl, of course you'll celebrate. Of course you'll have your parade. But years down the line, when you think back, do you want to be sitting there as a Carolina fan, and let's say they somehow win, but they beat this year's Steelers team, and Rodgers is 100 years old. Now, I'm not saying that for them to catch a stray, but don't tell me that would be as special as if they had beaten a prime Chiefs team. If any of these other teams were really elite, don't tell me that it's the same, because it's not the same. And that's my problem with the NFL this year. When nobody's elite, then everyone's the same. And we don't actually want that. Yes, the system's set up for that. We do not want everything to be the same, because it makes for boring football. And that's my problem right now with the NFL this season. It has not been as an enjoyable product, because I don't know night to night and week to week who's good and who's not good. So, again, congratulations to almost everybody, because so many teams are in the mix and anybody can win the Super Bowl. You got 14 teams. But at the end of the day, that is not what we aim for, and it's a disappointment. And the NFL, Roger Goodell, I'm looking directly at you. Coming up, all this talk about what's brave and what's not brave, I'm going to tell you on the other side why Jake Paul deserves no credit for what he did over the weekend. None at all.
If I told you 25 years ago that you could bet $1,000 on whether or not the Miami Dolphins would go 25 years without a playoff win, that probably would have returned 10 mil, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you could do that on Kalshi right now or on Polymarket right now and pick any team you want.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Michael Jordan retired at the age of 30 in 1993. He missed the 93-94 season. Furthermore, he came back for 17 games in 1995 when he gave up baseball. And when I mean gave up baseball, he gave up baseball on March 18th and came back to basketball March 19th, which means no ramp up, no training camp, no nothing.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
You ain't buying no tickets.
Who isn't?
You're not going to
Say
these
if I'm a
games.
fan. Of course I'm not. There's a fan. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but if you were a fan, I thought you were a fan of the Hurricanes. You're not
That guy,
anymore.
they told me.
They
I
smashed
told them
you.
to donate my tickets.
Yeah, so I get it. But the fans travel. They have money, believe it or not. It's
They
amazing.
don't.
Well,
Look,
somebody's
in this
got
economy,
money.
they
But
got the money.
they have money. I don't know. See what Kalshi says about the economy.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I'm just saying, if I were a good NFL head coach, if I were a hot offensive coordinator, and that coaching cycle's going to come around, and they're like, hey, do you want the Giants job? Or do you want the Michigan job? I think the Michigan job is much better.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig. He's on vacation with his family. Happy holidays to everybody as we do our Christmas countdown for everybody that celebrates. Now, over the weekend, the inevitable happened, and we'll get to that in just a moment. We don't really need to talk about the fight, but I want to talk about how, when we talk about sports, how we have apparently completely lost the plot on why we watch sports and what's real about sports and what's special about sports, and also about bravery and toughness and everything else. So on Friday, and apparently each fighter, by the way, in this fight, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, both fighters both netted over $90 million for that fight, and that number matters. So keep that $90 million in your head and think about you as a regular person. Everybody out there, because in this case, Jake Paul is just a regular person. He is not an elite athlete. He is not anything special. So just think in your head. Everybody out there, I'm going to give you a moment to do this. All right, a little homework real fast. What would you be willing to do for $90 million? Not $90 million, okay? $90 million for one night. What would you be willing to do? And what if I told you that whatever you have to do for that $90 million, you get months to train for it, and you can be as prepared as you can possibly be individually for that $90+ million payday? Because I'm seeing this from the new bro factor that exists in sports. I'm seeing it from a bunch of pundits that now talk about with this Jake Paul thing, that him getting into the ring with Anthony Joshua makes him somehow brave. I don't know a single human being in my life, I don't know a single one who would not got in the ring with Anthony Joshua on Friday night for $90 million. I know I would. I know the staff all here would. I know all of you would. $90 million, okay? Now, let's show what happened to him. So, obviously, we're not going to beat Anthony Joshua. None of us are. Look at his face there. Broken jaw in 2 places, all right? He looks like a chipmunk, swollen face. He's laid up. Yeah, he took a beating, but that beating in which any doctor says that this is, as far as him going back to, quote, fighting, it's a 6-month recovery if he wants to fight again. But he'll be out of the hospital and be able to, even if they wire his jaw shut, he'll be fine in maybe 3 weeks. By Martin Luther King Day, this dude is back to living his regular life out in the streets with $90 additional million in it. So ask yourself, be honest now, would you be willing to take that beating for $90 million? And I know every single one of you out there is like me saying yes. Of course you would take that kind of beating for $90 million. That's not brave. It would have been brave if you took that beating to save somebody, or you fought it for free because you had to fight it to protect your home. Then you're brave. Having a fight against a pro boxer in which he did not try to win, I want to also put that in there. I know that Ethan, or the producer, and all the SportsGrid people, and me, and Craig, and everybody else, you know what we would do that Jake Paul didn't do? We tried to win the fight. He didn't even try to win the fight. He dove at the man's legs 100 times. He did all this stuff. Try to win. You're going to get knocked out either way. It's better to try to win if you're going to get knocked out either way, because you get the $90 million either way. You get the $90 million. So they go, oh, he lasted 6 rounds. He lasted 6 rounds because he ran around for 6 rounds. He didn't try to win. He spent more time on the ground. It appeared he was trying to do something inappropriate that we can't talk about on the show to the man in front of all these people for $90 million. The way he was on his knees like that. It was gross. You cannot put yourself in that spot to do that over and over and over again. And it was for $90 million. Now, if you look at this, he ended up getting his jaw broken in 2 places. All right? Yes, that's serious. And yes, he took a beating. And yes, he stayed down after getting the jaw broken in the second spot. So great. But are we really at a point where we're going to give credit to a guy for $90 million for taking a beating that he was ultimately going to take anyway? He was ultimately going to take that beating either way. He didn't have a chance in the fight. So I just want to say that the reason we like sports most times is because it's the best people in the world doing things that we can't do. Okay? That's what makes sports special. When I go back there and see Lamar Jackson when he's healthy, okay? When we watch, even in the Olympics, when you saw Michael Phelps, the reason he mesmerized America and the world was because none of us thought we could get in the pool and do what Michael Phelps did. That's the special part. I don't know a single person who wouldn't have gotten in the ring and got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. He didn't do anything special. Yet I got to see these people who are supposed to be sportsmen watering down what we love, okay? If you're watching this show, if you're listening to this show, you do it because you love sports. You love the game. You love that it's played at the very highest of levels. And now we have people now acting like this guy deserves credit. He didn't win. He didn't have a competitive moment in the fight. He didn't do anything but get beaten. And it also brings me to this whole internet culture, okay? These internet people aren't real. Yes, they're humans, and I guess, and all that stuff, but you saw what Aiden Ross did to Puka Nacua. We have to keep this is the next point. It's time for the internet stuff to get out of our sports. It's time for the internet stuff to get out of our sports because they don't belong in our sports, okay? Stop. I'm asking pro athletes out there, and a lot of them watch this show because of Craig. Don't go on Aiden Ross's show. Do not allow this internet stuff to dilute what we love. Because what's next? A home run derby where you go against somebody and you don't hit any home runs, but you get money for it because you stepped in the batter's box? Like, it's a slippery slope when not trying to win and getting $90 million to get knocked out, something we would all do, becomes special. That's what we are. There used to be this terrible thing on the internet, terrible thing, called bum fights. And I don't want any of you to go look up bum fights. Don't Google it. Just take my word for it, okay? Where they would literally, it was literal. Somebody would have a camera out there. This is pre-phones having cameras. And they would have two homeless people fight and record it and put it on the internet. And it went away because we saw that wasn't what we wanted to watch. It was inhumane. It was everything else. It wasn't sports. What Jake Paul did and what all these pundits that now pretend like it's something other than that did was it was a bum fight with one real fighter and one dude who was there to get punched in the face and got punched in the face. And that's the whole long and short of it. It wasn't brave. It doesn't make you smart. And supporting this is bad. Sports fans, we need to take sports back from internet trolls, okay? Let's take sports back and let's not do this anymore. $90 million is not brave. We would all do that for $90 million. Hell, Anthony Joshua, you want to pay me $50 million? I'll fight you in 3 months. And then I'll come in here with a broke jaw, but I'll have $50 million. It's not that big a deal. We got to stop pretending like it's a big deal because it's not a big deal to get knocked out for $90 million. Coming up, we'll have a special segment that we're going to have coming up. It has to do with the top 5 NBA players of all time because guess what, people? Craig Carton, he ain't here today. So let's have some fun that he wouldn't allow us to do if he was here.
For those of you who have never watched, we could easily just call it true or false, but we got creative because that's what we do. We create content here on the show. We call it buy or sell. Tucker will lead the Bucks in touchdowns this season. I never, ever would have thought that this would even be a buy or sell, but here we are.
It had to be frustrating last night that he stole the one, right? Got the goal line carry there. I don't know when he became the goal line back, but he is. That being said, this is a pretty easy buy for me. I mean, he's got 6. Rashad White has 4. You want to guess how many Bucky Irving has, Craig? How many touchdowns do you think Bucky Irving has this year? You're close. You're close. He's got uno.
Yeah, easy buy. Yeah, they're using him near the goal line, too. I did see some metrics that said that Irving has a hard time getting in the end zone, by the way. When it's close, he usually scores from outside, so it does appear that Tucker will lead the team in touchdowns this season. All right, 2 players that are going to be drafted inside the top 5 in fantasy. I probably could say, honestly, George, inside the top 3 in the first round of fantasy football next year. Jahmyr Gibbs will have a higher ADP than Bijan Robinson next season.
Gibbs, I think, is close to your number 1 next year. I do. I think we'll trust him more than McCaffrey because he stays healthy. I'm assuming PPR when he catches so many balls, so does McCaffrey. But we love the Detroit offense here. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys, by the way. All right, I'd be happy with all of them. But I think me personally, if I had, it was Gibbs, McCaffrey, which I think is really your 1-2 there. I'm going Gibbs.
No, and I think that's next year's number 1 fantasy draft pick. It's not that it's going to be bad. I just think there's a lot of variation going into next year. I could see any of 3 or 4 players as of right now going number 1. I would have said Jonathan Taylor, but he slowed down.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig Carton. Happy holidays, everybody. And, Craig he's a nice guy and all, but he runs the show with an iron fist. And there's a lot of things that we can't do when Craig is here. But guess what, everybody? We're getting ready to do something different because you know why? Because Craig ain't here. It's a segment we'll be doing all week, and this is part one because Craig ain't here. Look at the Tyrone Johnson Show logo right there. For these next few minutes, it's for me, all right? Now, and for you guys, too, because I know you want to talk about it, but Craig doesn't allow this, so today we're going to get right to it, and we're going to do, and remember, when Craig makes a list, I'm going to use the same rule as him because it's his rule. There's no debating this list. This is the definitive list, okay? And we're going to do different things each day that are definitive. And there's no argument. So I don't want to see anything in the comments or complaining. This is definitive, and we're doing the top 5 NBA players in order definitively. And let's get to number 5. Number 5 is Steph Curry. Yes, Stephen Curry, the stud from Davidson University that changed the whole NBA. In all seriousness, you see the resume. He's got a couple MVPs. He's got 4 titles. Steph is 5th in large part because of impact on the game. You now have a whole generation of high school, little league coaches who are furious because all Steph does, all the kids want to shoot threes like Steph. He has changed the game. No one expected it. And I also have to say that the fact that he's doing this at 38 years old, at the level that he's doing it, not only is he the greatest shooter to ever live. When they talk about genetic freaks, they talked about Julius Peppers, and they talk about LeBron, who might come up in this top 5 list in a little while. I'm going to say it right now. Steph Curry is as big a genetic freak to still be able to shoot the ball from range at his size, at his age, as anybody to ever play in that league. The first thing to go when you're playing pro sports are the legs. And when the legs go, that jump shot gets flat. And you know that just from your YMCA days. Anybody out there right now, you go in there to shoot, you know that you got to do a lot of extra effort to get those shots up. He's the number 5 greatest player to ever live, Steph Curry. Number 4, Magic Johnson. 3 MVPs, 5 titles. And you know, people forget, he was in his young 30s when he unfortunately got the HIV virus. I have to wonder, would he have gotten a 6th ring? Would he have gotten a 7th ring? We know he lost his last full season as a player. He lost to Michael Jordan there. Could that have been a little bit of a rivalry? Magic was not an old man when that happened. He's probably getting forgotten because of the business and his terrible tweets where he'll go, the person who wins this game will be in the Super Bowl. Like, Magic's tweets are more famous than him right now, but Magic Johnson, underrated with this generation. If you don't know about him, then check up on him, Google him. You can Google that. But definitively, he is the 4th greatest player of all time. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who does not get nearly enough credit. And I almost made him number 2, to be honest. 6 MVPs and 6 rings. When they talk about Jordan with his 6 rings, they talk about that all the time. And the reason, but they never talk about it with Kareem. And the reason he's in front of Magic is Magic's one of his titles. People forget. As a rookie, they talk about he jumped center against my Sixers, and I've heard about this literally my whole life. If you're not from Philadelphia, you probably don't have the PTSD of it. He was a rookie. Yeah, Kareem was the MVP of the league that year. He's number 2 all-time in points. And because he was understated, I think that's why he doesn't get talked about. And I still want to know. I know it doesn't, quote-unquote, look cool. I'm waiting for some big man to do the sky hook. It's completely unblockable. You have to figure at some point somebody's going to try to copy this shot. And this is where the next one, remember, this is definitive list, so no notes, and I don't want any comments about this. The number 2 basketball player of all time is Michael Jordan. Number 2 all time. And for people out there to think that's somehow an insult, think about how many people have played basketball. Everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, everybody's played basketball. Of everyone that's ever walked the earth playing the game, saying that someone's second is not an insult, okay? For me, the reason he's second and not first, all right, first of all, the 5 MVPs, the 6 titles, 6-0. They talk about load management today, and people hate load management. Why do we not count his load management year and a half? Okay, the game, it got to be too much for him for a lot of reasons, and he had a load management year and a half. That right there, plus his Wizards time, that counts. That moves him down to second. And the number 1 player of all time, a player who's been maligned on this show more than anyone else, nay, a man who's been maligned more than any athlete to ever live, LeBron James, the number 1 player of all time in the NBA. 4-time MVP, all right? 4 NBA titles, number 1 all-time in scoring, number 4 all-time in assists, still averaging over 20 points a game at literally I talked to his mama yesterday. Whatever they have him listed, he's actually 53 years old, okay? This man is 53 years old, okay? Don't listen when people tell you that he's in his 40s. He's 53 years old, still averaging 20 points a game, the most scrutinized player in his entire life. That is the list. Curry, Magic, Kareem, Michael, and number 1, because Craig ain't here, LeBron James, the number 1 player of all time. Number 1 of all time. Coming up on the other side, we got to get to the college football playoff and how college sports should really work.
I'm just saying, if I were a good NFL head coach, if I were a hot offensive coordinator, and that coaching cycle's going to come around, and they're like, hey, do you want the Giants job? Or do you want the Michigan job? I think the Michigan job is much better.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Look, the trend continues to go to Blake Corum. He's still available. I can't believe he's still available. So if you have Carton Williams, you got to have Blake Corum on your roster. And if you don't have Carton Williams, I think you still want Blake Corum on your roster. You got to have these insurance policies on your roster at the very least. Even in a shallow league, if Blake Corum's floating out there, don't let him float out there. The last thing you want to have happen is for him to end up on some other team and then taking you the next couple weeks to win a championship.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
They went all in with the Sauce Gardner trade, right? All in. Give you a couple of number 1 picks here. Then Daniel Jones breaks the leg, and then he tears the Achilles. All right, you're signing Phillip Rivers. Are you kidding me? I mean, by the way, you know what hasn't been talked about enough? Sam Ehlinger decided he didn't want to come play for the Colts. Why? You would have been. I know Denver activated him to the roster anyway, but he would have been maybe the starting quarterback this weekend.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. And Tyrone Johnson in for Craig. Craig's on vacation right now. By the way, everybody out there who's watching live, of course, you can podcast the show. The show is podcasted each and every day. You can download it everywhere where you get your podcast, Spotify, obviously Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you normally get your podcast. In addition to the show each day, there's additional content on not just the major sports that we talk about all the time, but we have a boxing video coming up. We've talked to people who do horse racing and a million other things. So you want to make sure you subscribe and download each and every day the Craig Carton Show podcast. And there's a lot of things there that you can only get there. In addition to, if you missed the show live here on SportsGrid, that's your next opportunity. So make sure you do that. Now, the college football playoffs started over the weekend. You had a couple exciting games. You had some not so exciting games. And before we get into the nuts and bolts and all of that, in just a moment, as you see right there, going forward, we have to ask ourselves what we want college football to be. Because the outrage wasn't from the Alabama-Oklahoma game, which was a close game. Alabama falls behind 17-0, and then they were the better team really for the whole rest of the game. It's not about the Miami-Texas A&M game, which was a low-scoring competitive game and a lot of wind and maybe not highly played on the offensive side as far as execution, but defenses was full of first-round guys. Ruben Bain from Miami was a beast. Unfortunately, they called him out and said he hadn't went against a good left tackle. Yeah, he had 3.5 sacks in that game against a first-round pick left tackle. So no one was upset about those games. But you had Tulane and James Madison is what upset people, and then we'll look ahead in just a moment. And they're upset that Tulane got blown off the field, and now that coach will move on to another school. And James Madison, unfortunately, got blown off the field for a while, but then they ended up covering and fighting back. And we'll talk about, at the back end of this conversation, we'll look ahead in the college football playoffs. But we have to ask ourselves what we want college sports to be. And at the end of the day, if we're being completely honest, are we really saying we want it to be the NFL light? Because by design, it's supposed to be different. We know that. That's why they have the different conferences. That's why those things exist, is because it's supposed to be different than the pros. Obviously, in the NFL, you take the 32 teams, and that's it, and those are the best, quote-unquote, 32, and that's that. And that's just how it works. College, by design, up until this point, is supposed to be different. Or is it? And I'm starting to think more and more from fans that are upset about the group of 5 teams getting in, and unfortunately they weren't very competitive in those games. The games were never in doubt as far as the outcome. We now have people out there who are really saying they want it to be more like the NFL. And then you have to ask yourself deep down, if you didn't go to one of the blue blood schools, if you really want that. Because the point of the college system was supposed to include everybody. And is that wrong, right, or whatever? I don't really have an opinion on that, even though I would love to have one. I'm just speaking the factual basis of how the sport is set up, usually. And you also have a whole new group of fans that are upset about NIL. They're very bothered by it. I don't know why. There's a percentage of fans out there that cannot stand the fact that these players are getting money, that they're getting paid. And that's more NFL-like. So if you want it to be like the NFL and you only want the, quote, best teams, you don't want the group of 5 in there, then why would you have a problem with the people getting money? Because you're paying at the end of the day to see the players. So why shouldn't the players, they be compensated for it? But there's a bit of a conundrum there. There's people who are contradicting themselves when they look at the sport. I think at the end of the day, we do want the group of 5 involved in some way. But I did speak today to people today who say that those guys shouldn't be. So what do you do with those, though? What do you do with those teams? What do you do with the Tulanes of the world? What do you do with the James Madisons of the world if you don't want them to have an opportunity in the tournament? That's why I badly wanted one of those teams to win or be very close, because then that takes away that sentiment. But if we recognize there's going to be over 100 teams playing college football every year, and most of us are going to be playing on one of those teams and not Miami and Alabama and Ole Miss and Georgia and all those teams, if we're going to be completely honest, do those people deserve a seat at the table? And my answer is yes. I recognize what happened, but I also want to slow everything down and say, last year it was Boise that was that team. And they had a first-round running back, and they were a good team, and they were in a game against Penn State, and it just didn't work out. Okay, that happens. But it's only a 2-year sample size. Are we already ready, after 2 years, after seeing the outcomes of these games, ready to get rid of roughly 75 to 80 teams and basically tell them you don't count at all? And is that good for the sport? Because college is different, inherently different than the NFL, where at times an 8-4 season in college is a good year. That equivalent in the NFL is never a good year. It's different. It's supposed to be different. Are we comfortable telling people in August, when the season starts in college, hey, kids on campus, hundreds of thousands of people that go to these games, or in some of these other stadiums, 50,000 people, these games don't actually matter for you. The fact that they get an opportunity to get into the tournament, to me, is extremely important. It's extremely important in my opinion. Now, there's other people out there who will say, I just want to watch the best teams. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but are you okay with the professionalized version of college football? Are you okay then with the players being free agents every year? Because at the end of the day, it's professional. And if you're okay with it being professional, then I'm okay with it being professional. But a lot of people are speaking out of both ends of their mouths. On the one hand, they don't want to see any of these teams that are quote-unquote not elite, but they have a problem with the money. They have a problem with the coaches and having to feed the beast all the time. And if you don't want things to get too far afield, then you need to include everybody. And if you don't include everybody, then you're going to have a problem going forward. So I'm saying people got to think this through before they make that kind of decision. They got to think it through. Now, looking ahead in the tournament itself, now it sets up to have some really good games. Now that the group of 5 guys are out, you have some really good games. You saw that Miami team. They're going against Ohio State. That's the Cotton Bowl. Looking forward to that game. Hard not to. Then you have the Orange Bowl. You got Oregon playing Texas Tech. That's an intriguing matchup if you're a fan of the sport or if you're not. Trust me, those are really good teams. You have the Rose Bowl. Alabama playing Indiana for the first time literally ever. They have never played each other before, and obviously they'll be coming in there to a chance to advance. And then in the Sugar Bowl, you get a rematch of the game that Georgia won, which was arguably the best game of the regular season in college. The Ole Miss will be playing Georgia. Obviously, no Lane Kiffin going forward. And then if you're that kind of person who didn't want James Madison and didn't want Tulane in the tournament, is it by rule now that you have to root for what? Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia? Is that who you have to root for, or do you want to see somebody new this year? I'm a big believer that this is why we play the games, and there will be an upset or two in that mix. I think right now, if I had to root for a national championship, I got to root for Indiana versus Ohio State or Indiana versus Georgia. I think that would get the most eyeballs. But again, you have to decide, though, what kind of fan you want to be. Do you want to be a fan that is just like our producer Ethan, is just kill, 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 best teams, best teams, best teams, best teams, best teams? Or do you want to be a fan that recognizes this is college, this isn't the NFL, and upsets and things like that are fun? Because this is going to be a real test. This is going to be a real test. Miami, Ohio State, whoever wins, both of those teams have track records of winning. That one's fine. Oregon, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a brand new team. You didn't watch Texas Tech when Mahomes was there. Don't lie. Because there's people now that go, I knew about him at Texas Tech. No, you didn't. You didn't watch him at all at Texas Tech. Are you rooting for them? All right, do you want Indiana or do you want Alabama, the bluest of all the blue bloods of them all? And then obviously Ole Miss, Georgia, you kind of can't go wrong. But Ole Miss has never been this far, by the way, before, ever in their history. This is the best season in Ole Miss history. So who are you rooting for? This part now gets interesting for the fans, and I just want consistency. You guys tell me what's right, and I'll go with it. But I can't have the wishy-washy. I can't believe these players are getting millions of dollars, even though I watch millions of people watch. I don't like it. I also don't like that a group of 5 team got in. That's unfair. Like, come on, people. You got to decide what you want. Is it pro sports or is it not pro sports? Okay? Is it pro sports or it's not pro sports? You got to decide. I say it's college. I'm good with it either way. Coming up, a player actually punched a fan and was able to still play in the game? We'll talk about the rules and we'll get into news and notes coming up here on the Craig Carton Show.
When it comes to NAL, money does buy you talent, but it doesn't buy you chemistry, leadership, and wins. Look at St. John's, Kentucky, how they're battling. You need the right mix of experience, youth, and new blood if you're going to really tackle the transfer portal market in NIL and win consistently.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
If I told you 25 years ago that you could bet $1,000 on whether or not the Miami Dolphins would go 25 years without a playoff win, that probably would have returned 10 mil, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you could do that on Kalshi right now or on Polymarket right now and pick any team you want.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Michael Jordan retired at the age of 30 in 1993. He missed the 93-94 season. Furthermore, he came back for 17 games in 1995 when he gave up baseball. And when I mean gave up baseball, he gave up baseball on March 18th and came back to basketball March 19th, which means no ramp up, no training camp, no nothing.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
You ain't buying no tickets.
Who isn't?
You're not going
I'm
to
saying
these
if I'm a
games.
fan. Of course I'm not. That's a fan. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but if you were a fan, I thought you were a fan of the Hurricanes. You're not anymore.
They told me.
They smashed
I told them to donate my tickets.
Yeah, so I get it. But the fans travel. They have money, believe it or not. It's amazing. Somebody's got money.
In this economy,
they have money. I don't know. See what Kelsey says about the economy.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for vacationing Craig Carton. And we get to this is usually where we do news and notes, and one may dominate. I don't know. DK Metcalf. Let's show the video first. We have a fan video of this. DK Metcalf ends up throwing a punch at a fan, as you can see right there, and the fan side of the story was, and you saw it, like he punched him, and we'll get into why that should and shouldn't happen. Yeah, as you see that. The fan side of the story is he just called him by his government name, and that was it. That's the fan side of the story is he saw DK, he called him by his actual name, what the TK stands for, and he came over and hit him. That's the fan side of the story. Now, just out today, we now have DK Metcalf's side of the story. This is from Tom Pelissero from NFL Network. Apparently, there's a history of this fan and DK Metcalf. I just want to present this before we give opinion, present what each side is saying. Now, you heard the fan side. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. If you believe that's all he said was the guy's government name. I got a bridge to sell you. All right. DK's side of the story is that he has a history with that fan fan had been, he had alerted security in Seattle last season about that same fan. And he also claims that fan called his mother a derogatory word and called Metcalf something that you quote, we both know you don't call a black man. That is what DK's side of the story is. Okay. So, and DK's side, if you don't want to believe it, I'll tell you what, DK's side is more believable than what the fan said, because why would a guy just punch him just for saying his name? I just don't believe that part. At the same time, I don't know if DK's side of the story is correct. I could just say it's a lot more feasible and a lot more believable of the two. I still have to say, you can't go and punch him. And I hate to say that, because I think at times in the camera phone world where people are always trying to go viral and are likely, and again, he goes over to him and grabs and punches him, but you see that guy is still in the stands. He's not actually a threat to you right there, and we didn't see anything on that video where he threw anything, and even DK's side isn't that he threw anything or did anything to other than words. And because of that, DK can't punch him. And he has to be suspended for a game. And I hate to say that. I really, really do. Because, again, the fan behavior and fans trying to go viral, to me, has gotten out of hand, and it's a problem. And we have to hold each other accountable at games when people are trying to do those things, because it's not funny, and it is dangerous. And while they are handsomely paid to do what they do, your job there is to say almost anything you want, and that's on a positive or a negative. There's a line with certain words and things, but as a fan, your job is to go there, and as long as you don't interfere directly with the players, you can kind of do most of what you want. And because he's not down on the field, he's not at the tunnel grabbing him or reaching him like earlier with the Ravens, where Lamar Jackson had a teammate's back and pushed the fan after the fan physically grabbed the teammate. That to me is different. These were words. DK, I just have to say it, he can't throw a punch there. And I believe that the guy likely, quote unquote, deserved to get punched. But you can't do it. You can't have it to where if the fans say something, the players are automatically swinging on them. You can't have it. I don't love it from the side of DK in that way. I don't love that part. But I think he has to be suspended for a game. I think he just does. You have to set the tone. Now, if it comes out that this guy is as bad as DK said, ban him from all NFL stadiums. I don't think it's a right to have to go to games. Hell, ban him from all pro sports. Don't let him into baseball games. Don't let him into basketball games. Don't let him into hockey games. I'm all for that if that guy is doing the things that DK claimed that he's doing. But you can't hit him. You can't hit him. And unfortunately, That just has to be the rule. Now, if that fan is on the field, like those guys that run on the field trying to get attention, in my opinion, players should be able to hit them. You go into the field to play, then you're fair game. But if you're in the stands, no matter what you say, and if DK had got him ejected, fine. You can't go down there and you can't punch him. DK should not be playing in the next game, and I hate it because I believe of the two stories that were told, I believe DK's a lot more of the two stories, but you can't punch a fan, and he should be suspended for one game. I thought maybe the rest of the season before the extenuating circumstances and the fan just lying. I just called him his government name, and he just came over and assaulted me. Shut up, you liar. Johnny Manziel. Hadn't heard about Johnny Manziel in a little while. And I'm watching College Game Day like a lot of other people do before the college games, and he was supposed to be the guest picker. And he was at that Jake Paul fight the night before, and I had seen that. And it was late, midnight, a little after. He didn't show up. And he says that there's a narrative. Hey, Johnny Manziel, you were a jerk when you were at Texas A&M. You were a jerk when you were in the NFL. And unfortunately, I have to say you're still a jerk now. I'm sorry. Like, do your job. You're a jerk. Like, I'm tired of this. The narrative. The narrative is what you has presented to us for better than a decade. You have teammates who are now in the NFL that are winding down Hall of Fame careers, and you still can't show up to stuff because you're broing out at a fake fight. Like, at some point, I'm not going to say grow up because this is who you are. I'm sorry. It's not a narrative. This is the truth. Johnny Manziel's a jerk, and if you're booking him, now it's on you. If you book Johnny Manziel and he doesn't show up, the issue isn't Johnny Manziel being Johnny Manziel. The issue is you believing that this dude's redeemable because he's not. Because he's not redeemable. He's just not. He's just not. Yeah, so they panded to the crowd during the college game, Miami, Texas A&M. And people were all up in arms because apparently, and I didn't know this woman, I'm being honest, an adult film actress was in the crowd at the game. Now here's the thing. What was her name again, Ethan? The woman's name, I forget it. Abella Danger is apparently her name. I did not know. I wasn't familiar with her work, okay? But, well, I assumed you had looked it up, Ethan. Ethan didn't know either. He looked it up. But I will say this, though. There were people who were mad at, like, the broadcast. Well, if you cut to, the game's at Texas A&M. Obviously, that first round is all played on the home stadiums, like on campus, which is actually a cool environment. The next round should also be on campus, but that's a conversation for another time. How are they to know that an adult film star would be in the Miami section? Like, how would they know? Miami was making good plays and they had no way of knowing. Here's the question, though. Was she there as a fan? Or does she have some sort of a connection, let's say, with the university? I'm just asking, okay? I'm just saying. Right. Is the crystal ball, he had all his family there and his kids were all there? I don't know. I'm just wondering if they had anything. Coming up, we have our official player of the Craig Carton Show in women's basketball, and also we have to get to the Monday Night Football game.
For those of you who have never watched, we could easily just call it true or false, but we got creative because that's what we do. We create content here on the show. We call it buy or sell. Tucker will lead the Bucks in touchdowns this season. I never, ever would have thought that this would even be a buy or sell, but here we are.
It had to be frustrating last night that he stole the one, right? Got the goal line carry there. I don't know when he became the goal line back, but he is. That being said, this is a pretty easy buy for me. I mean, he's got 6. Rashad White has 4. You want to guess how many Bucky Irving has, Craig? How many touchdowns do you think Bucky Irving has this year? You're close. You're close. He's got 1.
Yeah, easy buy. Yeah, they're using him near the goal line, too. I did see some metrics that said that Irving has a hard time getting in the end zone, by the way. When it's close, he usually scores from outside, so it does appear that Tucker will lead the team in touchdowns this season. All right, 2 players that are going to be drafted inside the top 5 in fantasy. I probably could say, honestly, George, inside the top 3 in the first round of fantasy football next year. Jahmyr Gibbs will have a higher ADP than Bijan Robinson next season.
Gibbs, I think, is close to your number 1 next year. I do. I think we'll trust him more than McCaffrey because he stays healthy. I'm assuming PPR when he catches so many balls, so does McCaffrey. But we love the Detroit offense here. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys, by the way. All right, I'd be happy with all of them. But I think me personally, if I had, if it was Gibbs McCaffrey, which I think is really your 1-2 there, I'm going Gibbs.
No, and I think I think next year's #1 fantasy draft pick, it's not that it's going to be bad. I just think there's a lot of variation going into next year. I could see any of 3 or 4 players as of right now going #1. I would have said Jonathan Taylor, but he slowed down.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson in for Craig, who's on vacation. Happy holidays, everybody. What you didn't realize, Craig talked about it maybe a month or so ago. We have an official women's basketball player of the program, and that's Audi Crooks from Iowa State University. She had her third 40-point game of the season. Want to show her credit. She's playing like Shaq. Now look at her. That's her putting up a layup. We don't have the rights to show the whole video. That's not, by the way, some high school girl or some small school. That's Kentucky Center trying to guard her. That's a top-flight Division I girl, and she's just destroying people, playing at the highest of levels. Congratulations once again to Audi Crooks. Again, her third 40-point game already of this season. We're not even into January yet. She is the official women's basketball player of the Craig Carton Show, and when she has a game like that, she deserves her credit. And let me tell you, don't tell me that big girls can't be out there hooping, because she's out there hooping out there. 40, you can't stop her, okay? I don't know if Shaq could do that in today's game with the new rules. Audi can do it against the new rules. She might be better than Shaq, keeping it all the way a buck. Now, in the first segment, if you've been listening the whole time or watching us the whole time, I mentioned that Liam Cohen needs to calm down, okay? So he was talking about running back Parker Washington, who had a very good game, and he had this to say about him.
He's so explosive. He's so strong, his lower half.
So explosive, his lower half? Listen, I appreciate Cohen being close with his players, but there's a line here. Okay, there's a line here. Do we have that other graphic about it? Like, is that who he's talking about? Like, why don't you calm it down? Calm down. It's all like, what are we doing here, Cohen? Like, yeah, he had a good game. By the way, Jacksonville, as we mentioned earlier, that was a really good win. Are we comfortable in a world where we can go back to the 90s and Carolina and Jacksonville are both making the playoffs? Like, I don't know how to feel about it, but it looks like the Jags are in and Carolina very well be in. This is like the expansion draft. All of it. Is Tony Pacelli going to show up? For people like, what the heck's going on? Yeah, Tony Pacelli, left tackle of the Jags back in the day. Let's go back over the weekend. It was a good game. Obviously, the Bears are able to beat the Packers in overtime. And I love a good troll. And Caleb Williams, there were a lot of questions about him coming into the season. So I want to give him credit just as an athlete to tune that out. After one season, people were already putting dirt on his grave. This is a world-class troll. He's handing out meals. Go ahead and show it up. He's handing out meals. He's got the cheese grater on his head. I mean, that's an amazing troll. He's taking the selfies. He's handing out meals around the holidays, which is something great. If anybody can do that, absolutely do that and volunteer and help people out around the holidays. You know, people in need, it doesn't stop just because it's Christmas time. But that is a world-class troll from him to do it with a cheese grater. And when you win, you can do what you want. We'll see what happens down the road over the long takes of his career and all that kind of stuff. But in the here and now, to me, this is an epic level troll. Credit to him for sure. And I want to get to one more thing before we get into the game tonight. Ed Cooley, Georgetown's coach. I want to show it because if I said it, he ended up hitting the kid in the face with a water bottle. So they lose the game at the end. He goes to throw it far into the crowd. You can see him there in the yellow. Instead, it goes left and he hits a kid in the face. And that sticks, okay? Right. Like, he's not a great thrower, and he was frustrated. And the kid got hit. And it's an accident, and it's bad for sure. You don't want to hit a kid. But now the family's suing. And I just wonder, what damage was done there? What I mean is, did he have some injury? Was it a broken jaw like Jake Paul? Or are you just upset that he threw it and your feelings got hurt? And I just think that when you're at a game, you got to look alive. You got to be, paying attention. I'm a little bothered by the lawsuit. Everybody's looking to sue. Everybody's looking to make a quick buck. If you watch that video, just be honest, does it look like he hit the kid in the face, Or just does it look like he hit a kid in the face on purpose? I just don't think so. I think he got frustrated. He went to throw it, and he hit the kid. And if you want to give tickets and you owe him an apology, and I agree with all of those things, but I think a lawsuit is just, you're at a sporting event. It's not like you're even on the street. It was an accident. Something about that, I don't like it. But listen, this is the world we're in. I'm probably the naive one for thinking there'll be a situation where you wouldn't sue. All right, we have the Monday Night Football game tonight. I was 1-2 in my picks over the weekend. Not a great weekend. I knew one of the teams were going to cover. Yeah, and here we are. I won the Alabama game, and then I knew one of the teams were going to cover. I picked the wrong one, and then the referees and Metcalf shouldn't have been playing that game. That one should be under protest. Shouldn't have been playing. That referees, that was under protest, but I was 1-2 over the weekend. Tonight, you got the 49ers at Colts. 49ers absolutely need the game. The Colts badly need the game. We'll see Old Man River once again. Can he go out there and win it? The 49ers are 5.5-point favorites on the road. I don't love the game itself, but it is another fascinating game. The good thing is in prime time, we're getting games that actually really, really matter. But Rivers, if Rivers is the same Rivers he was last week, they have absolutely no chance to win. If Rivers is better, the 49ers still have a lot of injuries on defense. You might get something fun there. That is our time here on the Craig Carton Show. Thanks so much for everybody watching. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and we'll talk to everybody tomorrow.